వెల్కమ్ టు ఆల్. ఈరోజు ఈ సెషన్లో నేను యూనిట్ నెంబర్ 1లో ఉన్న ఇంట్రడక్షన్ టు పైథాన్ అండ్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ డెవలప్మెంట్ లైఫ్ సైకిల్ మీద ఏవేవి క్వశ్చన్స్ వస్తాయి ప్లస్ వాటిని ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయబోతున్నాను. సో ఇక్కడ స్థూలంగా చూస్తే మనకి 3 క్వశ్చన్స్ వచ్చే అవకాశం ఉంది ఇందులో. ఓకే, సో ఫస్ట్ లెట్ us see what is the first question. The first question వచ్చి list and explain phases in Python program development life cycle. This is the first question. సో ఇక్కడ మనం ఏమడిగాడంటే లిస్ట్ అన్నాడు. లిస్ట్ అంటే వాటన్నింటినీ మనం రాయాలన్నమాట. అండ్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్, వాటి గురించిన ఎక్స్ప్లెనేషన్ ఇవ్వాలి. యూజువల్లీ ప్రోగ్రామ్ డెవలప్మెంట్ సైకిల్ అంటే ఏంటి అంటే ఇట్ ఈస్ a process used in software engineering to manage the development of software programs. We know that the software programs are to be developed by the techies. Okay, so they follow a particular process for development of software programs. That process we call it as program development cycle. So what happens with the help of this program development life cycle? It provides a plan so that the entire program of development is broken into small manageable stages and tasks. So each stage and each task must be successfully completed before moving on to the next. So this PDLC is typically divided into several phases. They are problem definition, program design, coding and documentation, testing and debugging, deployment, and maintenance. So these are the 6 phases of program development life cycle. So first, let us try to know about each and every phase individually. Okay, so first, problem definition stage. So in this phase, the problem of the program is trying to solve is defined and understood. So in this phase, ఈ phase లో ఏం చేస్తారు అంటే ఏదైతే ప్రోగ్రామ్ రాయదలుచుకున్నామో దాన్ని అసలు ఏ ప్రాబ్లం మీద ప్రోగ్రామ్ డెవలప్ చేయాలనుకుంటున్నాము, దాన్ని ఎలా సాల్వ్ చేయాలి, దానికి సాల్వ్ చేయడానికి ఆ ప్రాసెస్ని అంటే ఆ సమస్యని ప్రాబ్లమ్ని ఎలా అర్థం చేసుకోవాలి మరియు ఎలా డిఫైన్ చేయాలి అన్నది ఈ ప్రాబ్లం డెఫినేషన్ స్టేజ్లో జరుగుతుంది. సో ఇక్కడ ఏం చేస్తారంటే దిస్ ఇన్క్లూడ్స్ ఐడెంటిఫైయింగ్ ది రిక్వైర్మెంట్. వాట్ ఆర్ ద రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ దట్ ఆర్ దేర్ ఫర్ టు సాల్వ్ ది ప్రాబ్లమ్ ఎఫెక్టివ్లీ అండ్ వాట్ ఆర్ ది ఎక్స్పెక్టేషన్స్ ఆఫ్ ది స్టేక్ హోల్డర్స్. సో ద స్టేక్ హోల్డర్స్ ఈజ్ నథింగ్ బట్ హియర్ వి కాల్ దెమ్ యాజ్ ది క్లయింట్స్. So what are the expectations that the client is anticipating and creating? వీటన్నింటిని బేస్ చేసుకుని ఏం చేస్తారంటే they create a specification for the program that describes the data. What is the data? What kind of data that is to be required and how it is to be processed? What would be the required output and how the interface of the program, that is the user interface of the program, is to be designed. All these things are defined in the stage or in the phase, problem definition phase. Once this problem definition phase is over, then they go for problem design phase. So in this phase, the program's architecture and the design are developed. In what aspect, in which model of the design is to be followed is designed in program designing stage. So this program designing stage includes creating a detailed design of program components and the interfaces. What are the interfaces that are to be developed and what are the program components that are to be designed or defined in this stage, as well as determining how the program will be tested and deployed. What are the components and what are the measures that are to be taken for testing and deployment of the program is defined in program design stage. So this program design starts by focusing on the goal of the program and then breaking it down into smaller parts called module. So the entire big program is divided into, as I said, in the problem definition phase, it is to be broken into smaller parts, okay, manageable parts. So that manageable parts we call them as the modules. So this designing of each module is represented using different tools such as algorithms, Gantt charts, flow charts, definition tables, and pseudocode. Like that, this design phase in the program design phase is accomplished. Okay, so what we are going in the program design phase? This program design phase, we are identifying, creating detailed design of program components, interfaces, and we are determining how the program is to be tested and deployed. Then we focus on the main goal of the program, and then we break that entire program into smaller parts called modules. Okay, so these modules are designed by representing or with the help of different available tools. It may be an algorithm, it may be a Gantt chart, it may be a structure chart, it may be a flow chart, or it may be a decision table, or sometimes it is required a pseudocode is also provided. Then the third phase is coding and documentation. In this phase, the program developed and coding. So in this phase, what happens is whatever the program that was designed, okay, that is coded and developed. So in the development, it includes the source code. The source code is designed using any of the programming language or any of the database or any other using any other tool, and creating the necessary documentation. So while doing the coding itself, each programmer is assigned the task of preparing the documentation for the module for which he is working. So what this module documentation will help, this documentation will give the explanation about the program, how it is going to work and how to use the program. Next phase is testing and debugging. So this phase is critical because once the program is designed, the program is to be tested to ensure that whether it meets the requirements and whether it is containing any defects like that. So even though you have designed a good code and good program with excellent coding skill, but your program does not meet the requirements of the program, then it is of useless. Similarly, you have designed or you have coded an excellent source code, but the thing is that it contains some defects in it. So even then also it would be not useful for the stakeholder. Here the stakeholder is the client. So what we need to do is each program that was tested in designing and development, okay, is to be tested and debugged to meet the requirements, and it should be free of defects. So in testing and debugging, we perform different types of testing. They may be a unit testing or integration testing, system testing, or user acceptance testing. Then coming to the debugging, debugging is the process of finding the errors and fixing the errors or bugs that are there in the program. So once we have written the source code, there is a necessity for the developer to test or debug the code developed by him. So that would be done in testing and debugging stage. It is tested for integration, system, acceptance, and unit testing. And the debugging is to find out and fixing the errors or bugs that were there in the program. Once testing and debugging is done, then the program is to be deployed onto the system so that the deployed programs are available for the end users. The end users are nothing but the people who are using that application or that program. So, in this phase, the program is deployed and made available to users. This includes installing the program on target devices or platform, or configuring any settings or parameters, and providing any necessary training or support to the users. So, once testing and debugging is completed, then the product or the program is to be deployed onto the target devices, or it may be a platform. So, once it is to be deployed, it may be configured, or the system settings are to be adjusted, or parameters are to be included so as to meet the objective of the program. So sometimes it may be required to provide support and training for the end users. End users are nothing but the people, those who are working on that program. So once the deployment is completed, the maintenance phase will come into picture. So the program is to be maintained by fixing any bugs or errors that are found and updating the program to meet the changing requirements or user feedback. Sometimes once the program got deployed onto the system, the end user may give his feedback, and he may identify some of the bugs or errors which they have not been traced in testing and debugging. Sometimes the user will request for some updates or some changes in a program as per his requirement. So those are to be done during the phase of maintenance. So under maintenance, sometimes it may be required to take regular backups and security checkups, performance tuning, and any enhancements that are to be included or that are to be done during the maintenance phase. So this product development lifecycle, program development lifecycle is a process that allows for feedback and adjustment to be made at each phase to ensure that the final product should meet the needs of the stakeholders and at a higher quality. So let us come to the second question. Compare the features of C with Python language. So here in this question, we are asked the features of C language and Python language, and we need to compare them. So we know that C is a popular language and Python is also one of the popular languages, but they differ in many ways, even though they have certain similarities between them. So here I am touching some of the main features that distinguish C and Python. The first one is the program model. How you are going to model your program. In general, C programming is structured and procedure oriented in a low-level programming language that follows top-down approach. C programming follows top-down approach, and it is a structured, procedure-oriented language. Whereas coming to the Python, it is object-oriented, high-level, and interpreted programming language, but it follows bottom-up approach. So Python is not a procedural language, so it follows bottom-up approach, and it is a language that was interpreted. So it is a high-level language and it is object-oriented language. Next, coming to the syntax. C has a complex and rigid syntax. The syntax of C language is rigid, and that requires semicolons, curly braces, data type declarations, and pointers. Whereas Python is simple and flexible syntax that uses indentation, colons, dynamic typing, and no pointers. So there is no concept of pointers in Python programming. Next is the speed. Here the speed is nothing but speed of computation. C is a compiled language that runs faster than Python, which is Python is an interpreted language. And C allows direct access to memory locations and low-level operations that can optimize the performance. Whereas Python relies on interpreter and high-level abstractions that can slow down the execution. So in simple words, C is faster in execution than Python because C is a compiled language, whereas Python is an interpreted language. Next point is libraries. So the C has limited number of built-in functions and libraries that provide the basic functionality. Whatever the built-in functions and libraries that C is having, they provide the basic functionality. Whereas Python comes with a large number of built-in functions and libraries. So because of that, what happens is these libraries and functions will provide advanced functionality for various domains. So that maybe a web development, maybe data science, it may be machine learning, or it may be image processing, or it may be something else. So Python has large number of built-in functions and libraries. So this provides the flexibility for obtaining advanced functionality for different domains. And next one is usage. Coming to the usage of these two languages, C language is mainly used for developing the system software, embedded systems, operating systems, compilers, etc. Whereas Python is mainly used for developing web applications, data analysis, scripting, and process automation. For this Python language is used. So next question is, compare Python with any object-oriented programming language. So here we need to compare Python with object-oriented language. Here we have three kinds of object-oriented languages. There are several object-oriented languages, but mainly the languages that we know, the object-oriented languages that we know are C++, Java, and Python. So whenever this kind of question is asked, you can write the comparison between Java and Python, or you can write the differences between a comparison between C++ and Python. Here I considered the Python and Java for comparison. Here I am comparing in 4 different aspects. First one is syntax, second one is the typing, third one is the memory management, fourth one is multiple. What is the similarity or comparison between the syntax of Java and Python? So Python has simple and concise syntax that uses indentation to define code blocks. So the Python syntax is simple and concise, and it is very easy to define the code in blocks, whereas Java has more verbose and complex syntax. Java syntax is a little bit complex compared to the syntax of Python, and that uses curly braces, semicolons to delimit the code blocks. Here we know that Java uses curly braces and semicolons more frequently. And coming to the typing, Python is dynamically typable language. It means the type of variables are determined at runtime and can change during the execution of program. Whereas Java is statically typable language, which means that the type of the variable is declared at compile time and cannot be changed during the execution of the program. So this is the major difference. Okay, so the variables of Python can be determined at runtime and can be changed during the program execution. Whereas in Java, the variables are statically declared and are declared at the compile time and cannot be changed during the execution of the program. Coming to the memory management. Python uses automatic memory management. That means the interpreter handles the all memory allocation and deallocation for its objects, whereas Java uses manual memory management, which means the programmer has to explicitly allocate or deallocate memory for the objects by using the keywords new and big. However, Java also has a garbage collector that periodically frees up memory for objects that are no longer referred by any variable. That means if the objects are not referred by any of the variable in Java programming, then Java calls its garbage collector so that it periodically releases the memory that is associated with the objects that are referenced by any of the variables. So in Python, memory allocation is automatic, whereas Java, the program has to manually allocate the memory. Next one is multiple inheritance. Python supports multiple inheritance. That means a class can inherit from more than one parent class, whereas Java does not support multiple inheritance. But instead of that, what happens is it uses interfaces to achieve a similar kind of effect. That means whatever the object that you are going to get in Python with multiple inheritance, the same effect you can get in Java by using the interfaces. So these are the three questions that are asked from introduction to Python and program development cycle. So these are the three important questions. Please go through the questions. If you want hard copy of the material of this question, you can text me on my WhatsApp number. Here I am providing you the WhatsApp number so that I can send the hard copy to your address by APS, RTC, Logistics and Courier. Okay, so have a good day. Until then, bye-bye.